So I've shown you my onions in these wicking tubs and how well they're doing, and they are. I'll show you a little bit, I'll show you a better update in about a week or two when we get close to pulling the bigger onions. We're still trying to eat some of these as green onions to give a little bit more room. We planted them so thick, trying to give it a little bit more room for for some of them to get big. So anyway, what I did, I just went ahead and pulled up one whole tub of them, and it was solid onions. Most of them are inch and a half, 2 inches. Got a couple that are close to hardball size, but maybe not quite. But I'm gonna go ahead and plant that tomato plant. I had an extra tomato plant given to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and plant that. Let me show you what I'm doing. I'm gonna plant it in this wicking tub. So before I planted the onions, I limed this real good with a pelleted lime, which means it's still there. It's gonna take a while for it to do its thing. So I'm not gonna re-lime it, but I am gonna put about 1 pound of fertilizer. This is what I do to all my wicking tubs. If I'm planting a tomato, if I'm planting a blackberry plant, I put 1 pound of fertilizer all the way around that rim, that outside rim. And then I'm gonna come in here, gonna cover it up. You wanna cover up your fertilizer. And then I'm gonna dig a pretty good hole because I wanna plant this tomato pretty deep. This is a HM something, HM 1493, 1814 something, 1823 I think. Anyway, HM, Harris something, tomato. And it's supposed to be good. Read up on it. It's supposed to be a real good tomato plant. So we're gonna give it a shot in this wicking tub. So let me dig up a chunk of it out of this pot. I've got it in this. That's about a 3-gallon pot. Just having where I put those tomatoes when they were brought to me. And it has already gotten a great. I don't know whether you can see that or not. See all those roots. It's been in this pot for about a week, and it has already just gone crazy. The roots have, and the tomato itself looks good. Now I can hear some of those roots kind of tearing. I hate that, but it is what it is. And just cover it up. And everywhere that soil touches, I like to plant tomatoes deep, because everywhere that soil touches that tomato plant, it's going to sprout roots. And so tomatoes you plant deep. Most everything else you don't, but tomatoes you do. I'm gonna straighten him up just a little bit. My daddy used to say, boys, you better straighten up, fly right. We knew that meant we were gonna get a belt if we didn't stop doing whatever it was we was doing. All right, so about another week or so, or maybe even pretty sooner than that, I'll put a cage around that, a round tomato cage, and then I'll come in here on the sides. Tomato cage is not going to stay just by itself. So I'll come in here on the sides and put some 3/8 rebar, not so far that I'm poking a hole in landscape cloth, or in this case in that sock that surrounds those pipes. If you don't know what I'm talking about with a wicking tub, let me put some videos up in the top right corner about right now, and at the end of it, so you can see how to make a wicking tub, what the benefits of it. This tub has probably 3-gallon reservoir in the bottom of it for water. So you water it 2 or 3 times a week, even in the hot summer. Now you get a big tomato plant, 4, 5, 6 foot tomato plant on it that's got some big tomatoes. It's going to need drink every day, probably. It's going to need some water, because tomatoes are mostly water. But I don't care. Okay? I mean, you're still not wasting water, because you water it till it starts coming out of the little weep hole, which is about 3 inches above the bottom. And anyway, this tomato ought to do great. I think I moved enough dirt with it that it shouldn't have any shock. Probably never know it's been moved. A friend told me that one time, said you get enough dirt with a plant when you move it, and it'll never know it's been moved. You got enough dirt with it. So good fertilizer already. pH should be good for the duration of this plant. and I'll fertilize again, you know, in maybe about a month or something like that with some 20-20-20. This is 10-20-10 now. I didn't say that, but this is 10-20-10, and the reason I want 10-20-10 is because that 20, that middle number, that phosphorus, is what's going to give the blooms and going to give some good tomatoes. So I always want the middle number to be higher on anything that blooms. Corn, no, corn doesn't bloom, but anything that blooms, I think it needs that middle number a lot more so than it does the other two numbers. I put it that so much of it around the ring of this thing that it's going to feed it for a month or two. So anyway, that's the way I do it. That's the way I do everything in a wicking tub. I plant if I'm planting in the middle, like a blackberry, like a tomato, a pepper, something like that, I'll go around the ring and put a pound of 10-20-10. If I'm planting 2 tomato plants in here, if I put one here and one here, I would probably go down the center just like you do an earth box. I'd cut a little groove in the center and put that pound of fertilizer right in between the plants, plant the plants on the outside, on that, you know, 6 or 8 inches away from the fertilizer. That's the way I do it if I was planting more than one plant. We only had one plant to plant, so it goes in the middle, fertilizer goes on the outside. Hope that made some kind of sense to you. And if not, well, you just wasn't paying attention. Couldn't be my fault, right? All right. I believe that's it. We're going to watch this thing grow. And we're gone.